everyone, it's Tam here from Yoga Physio. I've been prompted by my students to do this little clip about how we can incorporate weights into our yoga practice to address issues of bone density. As we approach menopause and into menopause and aging, as our estrogen level drops, our bones can become brittle, and one of the things that we can do with exercise to keep our bones strong is to do weight-bearing exercise. So there's lots of things I've been doing outside yoga. I've been hiking up hills with a rucksack on with 10 to 15 kilos in my rucksack. But I've started incorporating also in class the use of weights. There's no reason why we can't incorporate weights into a yoga class. And I'm going to show you some very simple ways of doing that that benefit the vulnerable bones in our body, which are our hip bone, our neck of femur, and our low back. And the ribs as well. I mean, anywhere in the spine, if you get reduced bone density, you're at risk of a compression fracture. So there's a few ways I've been enjoying doing that. So the first thing to keep in your mind is before you pick up a weight, you need to be really comfortable with that action without a weight or with just your body weight. So some of the movements we're going to be looking at are things like Utkatasana. Okay, so Ardha Utkatasana, coming halfway down. Okay, being sure that we're symmetrical, that we don't have limitation from injury to our knees or our hips. Most of us can come to this halfway point. Some of you will be able to come all the way down, and that's fantastic. Although you also need to be aware of pelvic floor issues. You don't want to come all the way down if you've got a weak pelvic floor. And particularly when we start to pick up weights, then that's a consideration because that extra loading will put pressure down on the pelvic floor. So we're going to look at that movement. We're going to look at our warriors, way to use weights with warriors. The thing for me that keeps what we're doing yoga is the focus on the breath. So we'll be looking at ways of lifting weights, using the breath, and keeping that consistent with how we use our breath in yoga. So let's look at these movements and how we can work with them safely. We need to make sure that we've got really nice technique to begin and that holding a weight isn't going to compromise that technique. So in Ardha Utkatasana, with or without a weight, we don't want to have this kind of slumping action. We might have it to begin with when we pick up our weight, but we want to come back into our natural spinal curves. So also we don't want to drop into the groin and kind of excessively arch the back. So when you're pretty comfortable that you've got good technique and that you've got symmetry in your Ardha Utkatasana or your fuller Utkatasana, then we might start just with a small weight, with a weight, say 2 kilos, or you could have 2 dumbbells in each hand, and that might be where you start, just putting that might represent maybe 5% increase of your body weight. I'm going to demonstrate today. I've been building up, so I've built up through 5 kilos, 7 kilos, 10 kilos. At the moment I'm actually using 2 of these 7 kilos, and I've got some 10 kilos ready as well. And you know, for me to take 20% of my body weight, which is what I might do if I'm on a hike, that's a lot of weight. So generally you don't want to be taking more than 10% of your body weight for a longer hike. But for me to take 20%, that's 20 kilos is nearly 30 or 40% of my body weight. So that's what I'm going to do just to keep my bones strong. But I'm not going to move through the fuller ranges of movement with that kind of weight. So with my 5 or 7 kg, this is what we can do. We can come down, or we can reach up. So just move in and out, give the arms a bit of exercise, or coming down to Ardha Utkatasana. Inhale, exhale. Okay, or we can just rest that weight on our thighs and come down into Ardha Utkatasana. Okay, now if you do have the capacity, I think up to about maybe 5 10% of your body weight. If you're able to easily come down into Utkatasana, full Utkatasana, then that's quite fine. I can do this quite nicely with 7 kg. I probably wouldn't do it with 20 kg, even though my pelvic floor is fine. I think any weight, if you've got a vulnerable pelvic floor, you don't want to come down more than knee level with your hips. Now, we can also lift the weight from the ground. Okay, and you can see there's a little bit of curve in my back as I do that. Okay, and as long as I'm accustomed to that and grade that slowly, then that's pretty safe for my back. And that little bit of a curve with load actually increases the stimulation of bone to come into my low back. Okay, so we're loading the hips, we're loading the low back. Exhale down, inhale up. Okay, or I can make it what I do in my yoga. Inhale, Ardha Utkatasana. Exhale, Uttanasana. And if you don't have that full range of movement, you can lift from a chair. Okay, something like that. Inhale, exhale. You can see I'm keeping the weight quite close into my body, so that's good ergonomics. The weight will feel a lot heavier if I hold it out here, and oh, that's not ideal. That's a little bit too strong for my shoulders. So that's Ardha Utkatasana or Utkatasana. As I said, the other incorporation of weights we can do is with our warrior 1 or our warrior 2. Okay, we've got good technique, hip, knee, middle toes in line. Can work from a chair to begin. Now I've been doing this as a way of preparing for lifting a heavy rucksack. So I've actually been doing it with just one hand, with just my non-dominant hand, because that side's weaker. You can see the difference side to side. I can easily lift it with my right. So I do a little bit more favour my left. And again, you can hold the weight in the various ways that we've already looked at. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Okay, and if you're super strong with that action and steady, not to lose balance, then we can come all the way from the floor. Inhale, exhale. I think most of you are pretty conditioned to those movements if you've been doing yoga a while. So as long as you slowly grade the addition of weight, then it should just add not just strength to your bones, but also strength to the muscles as well. Okay, there's one more. Just going to move up the body a little bit. So we're frequently doing things on hands and knees. Let me just angle this camera down a little. Okay, so, and I like to do a lot of this kind of action. I often do this in my warm-ups. Can rotate in either direction there. Okay, maybe with the leg up. So the way you can incorporate a weight with this, and I'm just going to use a small 1 kg, 2 kg is fine, is this lovely draw the bow action. Okay, if you're taking the arm up, like I said before, that lever arm makes the exercise quite hard. The weight feels a lot heavier when it's out here rather than close into your body, which is more ideal for the ergonomics. Okay, but if you want to take your arm up, can just do it in this draw the bow action. Keeping it nice and controlled, no momentum. And that's not too hard for me with 2 kg. To lift back up to 7 kg is probably a little bit too much. Now this action, it loads the spine still, and it loads the ribs. You get this muscle pull of the stability muscles into the rib cage, which are other muscles that people often fracture if there's decreased bone density. So there we go. That should give you some ideas. You know, you can be creative. You know, you can use Contra-indications. If you struggle, I've got a few clients that struggle with weight bearing because of foot issues, and they still need to be addressing their bone density. So you can sit on a chair. Obviously, if you've got an issue with your foot, you're not going to want to load your foot, but you can still get the bone stronger in the back and the hips with that kind of action. Okay, so there you go. They're my favourite ones, but I'm sure you can be creative. Keep yourself safe. Don't use too heavier weights too quickly, although it is certainly good to build up to heavier weights to get the bones stronger. And of course, this goes also with having nutrition that supports bone health. That we've got vitamin D, which helps the absorption of calcium from our stomach into our blood and into our bones. And of course, we need to have enough calcium in our diet. So there's certain vegetables that are high in calcium, some dairy products. So if you want to look at that as well, make sure you're getting enough calcium in your diet. The calcium and vitamin D, a little bit of sunshine, leafy greens, because calcium coming in by itself doesn't necessarily mean it's coming into your bones. You need the vitamin D, you need the leafy greens to actually get that calcium out of your blood vessels and into your bones. All right, fantastic. I'm happy to share this with you, and I hope that you all have stronger bones soon. Give me your feedback. Bye for now.